Okay, so in chapter 13, we are definitely switching gears, and we're going to be talking about trigonometry for the whole chapter. But in section 1, we're going to start by reviewing what we learned last year in geometry. It was right around Christmas time that we were talking about this. This is considered the floating triangle because it's not attached to an XY axis. Okay, most of our stuff in this chapter will be, but these are just kind of floating in space. So we're just going to review what SOHCAHTOA actually stands for. Okay, so remind me, what do these three letters stand for right here? Sine is opposite over hypotenuse. Okay, so now that we've reviewed that, if we are looking at sine of y, so we're looking at this angle right here. You just told me that sine is opposite over hypotenuse. So what is the opposite side? Okay, if you draw a little arrow here, it points at the opposite side, so that's 3. Hypotenuse? 5. Okay, what if we're looking at angle G, which is at the top? What would the opposite over hypotenuse be? 4 over 5. Okay. What if we're looking at cosine of y? So cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. So here's angle y. What's adjacent? 4 over hypotenuse. Angle G at the top, adjacent, 3 over 5. Okay, tangent, you told me, is opposite over adjacent. So tangent of y would be, and tangent of G, 4 over 3. Okay, now your problems aren't going to look like this. This was just to refresh your memory a little bit. Your problems are going to look like this. Okay, so we're going to solve these. So when we look at these problems, we focus on where the angle is that they've filled in one of the angle measures or have a variable. Okay, so we're looking here. What two sides do we have? All right, so we have adjacent and hypotenuse. It really helps to label them, especially if you're struggling with knowing which one to pick. This makes it absolutely certain that we have to use what? Cosine, because cosine, the CAH, that's the only one with A and H in it. Okay, it's also over on the sideboard over there. Okay, so that means we have to use cosine. What always comes right after cosine? The angle measure. And then the acronym SOHCAHTOA also tells you what order your fractions need to be in. So if we have this part of the acronym we're focusing on, we know it's going to be adjacent over hypotenuse. Okay, so it's this extremely helpful acronym because it makes sure that you get the problem right. All right, what do we always do to solve these? We don't always multiply by x, but we always multiply by whatever's in the denominator, okay? So we've got x and x, which gives us x cosine 54 equals 5. Okay, is x by itself? No. Okay, so we've got to divide on both sides. All right, so this is the part that we put in the calculator. What do we get? 8.51. We'll go to 8.5. Questions? Is it sort of coming back to you a little bit? Okay, let's try one where x is in the angle. Okay, we're still going to start the same way. So here's our angle. What two sides do we have? Hypotenuse and adjacent. So again, we're using cosine. Now you told me the degrees always comes next, so we'll put our x right here. What order is our fraction going to go in? Okay, now on these we do not multiply by the denominator. Anyone remember how we solve these ones? You're on the right track. Look at your calculators. Maybe it will refresh your memory. Yeah, we do cosine -1, the inverse cosine. So we go cosine -1, and that allows us to flip these things around. So now we have 6/14 here and x all by itself. So you can put that in the calculator and it'll give you the angle measure. Okay? Questions there? Okay. Let's try this one. So here's our angle. What two sides do we have? What's this one? This is opposite and adjacent. So which one are we using? Tangent, because in the acronym TOA has O and A in it. So that means we're using tan. So we have tangent of 34 is always going to be opposite over adjacent. So we multiply by 4. So now we have 4 tan 34 equals x. Now x is by itself, so we don't have any more steps to do. We just put this in the calculator. What do we get? How much? Okay. Ignore my terrible art skills because it does not look like it would be 2.7, but it is, trust me. I just didn't draw my triangle very well. All right, over here. Here's our angle. What two sides do we have? We have opposite and hypotenuse, which means we're using sine. So we've got sine the angle. We go opposite over hypotenuse. And we multiply by what? So we got 8 sine 38. $4.9. Questions? Yes.
So you only use the negative ones when x is on the left, right?
You only use the negative one when, yeah, when your variable is the angle measure.
Oh.
Yep. Other questions before our last one? Okay, so this was review. This stuff is a little bit new, so you're going to want to make sure you're paying attention for this. All right, so they're going to give you a ratio. Now, it doesn't look like a ratio because it's just an integer here, but really we could say 5 is the same thing as what? 5/1. Okay, so tangent of x is 5/1. So you always want to make sure you have a fraction there if they don't give you a fraction, just by putting a 1 there. Now what you're going to do is you're going to draw a picture. Okay, any old random right triangle. Okay, and then whatever angle they've labeled it, in this case they put an x there, we'll put that on one of the acute angles. It doesn't matter which one. Okay, now they've given us this ratio here. Now remind me, tangent is what over what? Okay, opposite over adjacent. Okay, so on the triangle we need to label the 5 and the 1 in the right spots. So here's our angle right here. Where's the 5 going to go? On the bottom, that's the opposite side. And where's the 1 going to go? On the left. Okay. So that part we know is true. We want to find sine of x, which happens to be what over what? Okay, we have the opposite side, that's 5, but we don't have the hypotenuse yet, but we could easily find it by using what? Pythagorean theorem. Okay, so with Pythagorean theorem, the most important part is making sure that your c squared is in the right spot. So which one is c? 1, 5, or the blank one? The blank one. Okay, so that's our variable. The order of these two doesn't matter. So you could have 1 plus 5, or you could have 5 plus 1. So we've got 1 plus 26. Oops, I mean 25. I was thinking ahead here. 26 equals x squared. Tell me the decimal version of it. Okay, so 5.1. I want you to write that, and then I want you to write a line through it, because I do not want you to write the decimal form. I want you to keep it in radical form and simplify it when you can. So instead of writing this, I want you to write the square root of 26. Can we break 26 down at all, as far as finding pairs of numbers that we could take out of that root? What's the only factors of 26? 2 and 13, they don't match, okay? So that stays as the square root of 26. Okay, so keep it in radical form for these problems. Now, we can answer this. So sine of x is going to equal, let me just write it down here. What over what? 5 over square root of 26. Now, technically, yes, this is the right answer, but we can make it better by doing what? What's not good about this answer? Yeah, we have a square root in the denominator. Fractions are finicky. They don't like certain things in the bottom. So we can't have roots underneath. So how do we get rid of this? Top and bottom, multiply by that root. Okay, so now we just multiply straight across. So on the top we have 5 root 26, and we have 26 on the bottom. Okay, your homework is going to start out with 2 of these problems, and then the rest of it is going to be like the previous slide. Questions on this? It would be good to have this open next to your homework.